Hello, I'm Trevor Alonso, and this is my spoiler-free review of The Batman, which is a new Batman solo film starring Robert Pattinson as the Batman. Okay, so this movie was kind of a long time coming. It originally started off as a sequel, and it was going to be starring Ben Affleck as Batman, and it still had the title, The Batman. He was going to direct it and star in it. Then after a while there was complications, some of it having to do with the Justice League, and how that got recut and massacred. Then Ben Affleck dropped out as director. He was still going to write it, still produce it, and still star in it. Then after a while, he left the project completely, saying he just wasn't into it. And after seeing the Snyder Cut, I can kind of see why. Then they were going to make it as another movie that's still tied into the regular DCEU. Then Matt Reeves came on, and from what he said, he read that Ben Affleck script, and he read another script that was going to be in the DCEU and said that he wanted to start over. He gave his pitch, and now we get this version, which took a while to make. Because this movie, they actually started off right before COVID hit. Then somewhere at the beginning of making the movie, the coronavirus really hit. Everything got shut down. Production got shut down for this movie. Then it came back on. Then Robert Pattinson got COVID. I actually remember a lot of fans wondering, did they finish the movie? What's going to happen? They eventually finished it, and we get this movie today. And this movie is really good. This is not another origin story, which is great, because at this point I think everybody knows the origin of Batman, which is fine for those origin movies. And I understand someday they might do another origin of Batman, which might be for a while. This movie treats it as if everybody knows everything already, which is kind of what everyone's at, especially for Batman. The movie takes place about 2 years into Batman's early career. He's still a rookie, he's still learning everything. It's not like Batman Begins, where by the end of the movie, he's full-on Batman. Or kind of by the third act, he's full-on Batman and he knows everything that he's gonna know. He still has that learning curve. Yes, he's Batman. Yes, he's kicking butt. But it's like a rookie cop. He's still learning along the way. There starts to be a string of murders by a serial killer that calls himself the Riddler. Commissioner Gordon brings Batman in because the Riddler is leaving direct notes to the Batman. While trying to solve the murders, Batman runs into a few new characters along the way and starts to uncover something even bigger in the city. Now that's the basic plot of this, without giving anything away. Okay, so first off, the Batman. This is really good. Again, he's only 2 years in as Batman. Robert Pattinson really hit it off. I definitely thought he was the Batman after seeing the first trailer. And you can see he's still scarred from his parents' death. And he's still learning everything. And the way he plays Batman is perfect. He's very focused. They're more brute force fighting. Like, you can tell he knows some karate or some different fighting styles, but he doesn't try extremely fancy stuff. He's more fist punching, some kicking, whatever gets the job done. And he stalks the night. He picks who he's going to go after. He says at the very beginning, he can't be everywhere. The bat signal isn't just a signal, it's a warning to anybody else out there. And you see that. You see, like, criminals, they get in fear whenever they see the bat signal. Kinda like at the beginning of The Dark Knight. And you get the sense that he's a loner. He's used to being by himself. Now, Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, a lot of people are complaining about it. I think he's still doing a good job as Bruce Wayne, but it's still a young Bruce Wayne. He's still trying to figure out how to do both Batman and Bruce Wayne. And he's so focused on being Batman that he kind of forgets and doesn't care about being Bruce Wayne. That he sees everything as, I must be Batman, I must stop crime, I must do what I can. Early on in the movie, Alfred tries to set up a meeting for Bruce Wayne so he can keep business going, and Bruce says he doesn't care about it, and that his family's legacy is what he's doing, which isn't always the Bruce Wayne that we see in movies or in comics. And I feel like for this, it makes sense because he's still learning. I get in Batman Begins, they have one line and he does a full-on Batman and full-on Bruce Wayne, but here it's more believable because he's still learning. So when he's Bruce Wayne, it seems like he's a little bit of a loner. You can really tell he hasn't been in the sunlight that often because he lives more at night. He kinda acts indifferent around everybody else, except for Alfred. I get they modeled this Bruce Wayne after Kurt Cobain, and you kinda get that in some scenes where he's especially has like a huge sweater and just has messed up hair. But I also get near the end, he kinda gets this learning curve of, okay, maybe I need to do something else besides just the Batman. There are other people I care about. He's definitely Batman, and I believe that there's going to be a little bit of a change in the next movie. Okay, with Alfred, Andy Serkis does a great job, and he's not in the movie that much, but he does an amazing job. With this Alfred, I believe more that he raised Batman. Jeremy Irons pulled it off too, and you need like a tough Alfred. With the other movies, yes, they did a great job as Alfred. With this movie and Jeremy Irons, you believe that they raised a tough Batman. In the comics, they revealed that Alfred used to be a British Marine. He had a whole military career before he became a butler. And there is some banter here that you kind of see with like a kid talking to a stepfather. Bruce Wayne says to Alfred, "You're not my dad." And Alfred looks angry and he says, "I understand that." But he still treats him as his son. There's even a great heart-to-heart moment in the movie. Jim Gordon is doing really great in this movie. Jeffrey Wright, he does an amazing job. Ironically, he's the voice of Uatu in the Marvel What If series. And he actually did the voice of Batman for HBO Max series. And here he's pretty good as Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon, again, is started off at the beginning. He's into his career, but he's not a commissioner yet. And yes, I know they did that in Batman Begins. Commissioner Gordon has done pretty well here. I like it when Commissioner Gordon actually does stuff in Batman movies. Or you see that he's good in it, or somehow always works with Batman. With the 80s and 90s movies, he's kind of there. It seems like he just flips on the switch, Batman shows up. With the Nolan movies, you definitely get a sense that he works with Batman. Here, it's definitely working together, which is what they did in the comics. You get a sense of that with the DCEU Batman, but you didn't see it. You just know it kind of happens, and it gives off the sense that it happened, that they work together. Here, they're full on working together, actually getting clues together. Catwoman, played by Zoe Kravitz, is pretty good in this, and I see that they're going for like the early year one Batman type Catwoman. Especially with the big ears, they're kind of triangle shaped off of a hood. And I kind of hate to say this, but it feels a little bit like they're doing the Nolan Catwoman over again. They don't say she's Catwoman at all. She has a suit that kind of makes her look like a cat, which isn't saying anything against this movie. It works here. It worked in the Nolan movies. And Zoe Kravitz does a really amazing job in this movie. She's working with Batman, and you kind of get the start of the love story between Batman and Catwoman. And you get the sense that Batman's so used to working alone that when he starts working with her, you can kind of tell he's a little bit weary. And in some scenes where Catwoman starts to show some affection to Batman, he doesn't really do or say anything. He's stone cold, which is a lot like the comics. Okay, Paul Dano as the Riddler is really amazing and creepy as hell. They're definitely doing like the very later Batman comics or kind of Arkham Asylum type Riddler. They said they got a lot of ideas for this movie from the Zodiac, and it definitely feels like that. The Riddler is leaving crazy clues and crazy riddles, way better than what happened in Batman Forever, where those ones you could kind of solve right away, or it felt like children's riddles. Here you can tell they went into a lot of detail on how crazy they could make it, and also how scary it is. You could compare it to some of the riddles as almost stuff that Saw has. Definitely not the giggling 1960s or Jim Carrey type Riddler. Okay, the Penguin. They're definitely going by, again, the later comics, where Penguin's more of a mob boss. At least here you could tell he's like a rising mob boss. And Colin Farrell does a really great job as this. Like, you really forget that's Colin Farrell underneath a lot of makeup. There for a while I was kind of wondering why they even casted him. Especially when the goofy guy from Spin City looks just like what they did with the makeup. But Colin Farrell does a really amazing job. And of course, the Penguin's always disgusting and gross. You kind of get a sense of that in this movie. He's not the main villain for this movie, but he's definitely a bad guy. And he's high up there with the mob. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone does an amazing job. You really believe that he's a mob boss. They did Falcone in Batman Begins. They did a good job there, but here they do a really amazing job, and they kind of do the Falcone story a little bit more. Which you could say is kind of a hard job to do, a mob boss, because it's been done in so many movies. You know, he's definitely not trying to copy something else or trying to rip off The Godfather. You get a sense that he feels confident that he thinks he rules the city. Okay, the Batmobile and other Batman tech. This movie does an amazing job of juggling gritty real-life stuff and sci-fi. Again, Batman Begins did a good job, but sometimes when they stepped into the sci-fi ring, it seemed a little out of place, or it seemed like a huge jump. Here, it didn't seem like a jump whenever they did sci-fi, because some of the gadgets are a little bit in the realm of, okay, it doesn't exist, but I believe it in this story. At one point, Batman has contact lenses that are also cameras, but with the tech and what they did with the movie, you get a sense that it feels like it works. They don't make it a goofy one scene. The Batmobile in this movie not only looks like a muscle car, but you get a sense that that's what it was built out of, keeping it again more grounded. It's again indestructible, and it works for this movie. And it's one of the best Batman car chase scenes. Overall, I thought this was an amazing movie. It's really good. It tells a good story. It's filmed very well. All the characters are amazing. They definitely followed a lot of comic book storylines. You see a lot of growth in different characters. Okay, I have to say, this movie is extremely dark. I'm surprised it's PG-13. There was a rumor back when Dark Knight came out that there was going to be an R-rated cut of Dark Knight on DVD, and of course that never happened. Here, if you told me there was an R-rated cut of this movie, I'd believe it. Heck, I would almost say, was that not what we just watched? The movie starts off with a brutal murder, and it gets darker from there. Alright, they said when they made this movie, they got inspiration from the movie The Zodiac, which, yeah, this is definitely like that. I would say The Zodiac, Saw, and Seven, which is another movie they said they took inspiration from, was Seven. This is a very dark detective movie, which is something that was kind of missing from Batman. A lot of Batman movies, they either sort of mention detective stuff, or they don't do it at all, which is a big part of Batman. The 89 movie, they kind of touched on it, and then most of it happened off screen. They slightly did it in Batman Returns, and it was slightly mentioned in Batman Forever, and forget about it for Batman and Robin. Batman Begins, he sort of starts to become a detective. Kind of does it in The Dark Knight for a few scenes. Dark Knight Rises, not really, but I guess you could say in a few things they touched on it, which I'm so glad that it brought the detective element back to the Batman. The music is really great. There was a few times that they played some full-on songs. That one Nirvana song that you hear in the trailers, it's in this movie. I couldn't tell for sure if they played the whole song or just part of it, but it's a pretty good scene, and it fits for this movie. You get a sense that in this movie, Gotham City is pretty crime-ridden, and you get a sense of that to where there's so much crime that Batman can't be everywhere. And there's sort of that question of, is he really making a difference? And that no matter what, you have to try. This movie's shot pretty well. There's hardly any sunlight in the movie, but it doesn't feel out of place, because this is mostly a Batman movie. And what I mean by that is, yes, there is Bruce Wayne, but majority of the time, he's Batman. And I have to say, nothing in this movie felt cartoony, which happens in some comic book movies. It doesn't happen too often now. There are a few jokes in this movie, but very few to kind of break down the tone of the movie. It's not like the Marvel movies where some movies there feels like a joke a minute. As a big Batman fan, I give this my full-on approval. That's why I give this movie a 10 out of 10 bat signals. If you love Batman or the Batman comics, you'll definitely love this movie. Now, if you loved a lighter tone Batman, this might not be for you, but go ahead and check it out still. Thank you for watching my video.